Want to go deeper with Lobbing Scorchers? You know, scratch under the surface, get down even dirtier than we already get. Become a YouTube member. Sometimes things just get a little too spicy, a little too weird, and a little too loose for the general public. And you know, the people to see that are YouTube members. We're talking about exclusive bonus videos, the podcast after show, exclusive written content, and little bits and pieces of information before the unwashed masses know about it. As a member, you not only get access to all of this amazing content, you get a badge next to your name and a slew of amazing emotes to use, not only in our live stream chat, but also in our comments section. And yes, we do have an emote for Jesus Ferreira, Go Snack, and Paul Rothrock. This is the best way to help keep us independent and keep us building out this crazy YouTube brand that we call Lobbing Scorchers. Hit the join button down below or hit the link in the top of our description if you're on mobile to join the ranks and become a Lobbing Scorchers YouTube member.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. I'm Ari. That's Nico. And folks, it is playoff match day for the Seattle Sounders. That's right. Seattle's MLS Cup Playoffs campaign gets started tonight at Allianz Field in Minnesota. We're going to be giving one last final preview of that, giving our final hopes, dreams, expectations for Seattle's 2025 playoffs campaign. We're going to be reacting to some of the other playoff matches that have already taken place. We're going to bust out the lineup builder, project Seattle's lineup. So we got a lot to get to. Nico, playoff time, man. How you doing? How you feeling?
Hey, what's going on? Ari, Lobbing Scorchers family, what's going on? Excited to be back, of course. It was a great weekend of soccer for sure, man. I had to obviously watch it a little bit on replay, of course. I was gone for the weekend there in Pullman for family weekend. Had a good time. I'm a little tired because the drive was kind of crazy with all this rain and wind and storm, but we are here, man. And I did get to watch, the games from the weekend. And hey, I gotta say, man, this it's gonna be some good Western Conference games for sure. You know, the Caps look good. San Diego has some holes in their game. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to talk about it.
What was up with all that wind yesterday?
It's crazy.
Chicago? What's going on?
Came out of nowhere.
I'm not used to that. I didn't like it. I'm excited to talk some playoffs with you. Like you said, there's a lot to chew on, I think, coming off those games yesterday. You had Miami, Nashville on Friday. And then yesterday you had Philly, Chicago, Vancouver, Dallas, and San Diego versus the Portland Timbies. So I guess we can start with those before we get into it this morning. If everyone could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, buy the Lobbing Scorchers hot sauce, lobbingscorchers.com/sauce. Support Hacks and Ferments, one of our great sponsors. And as always, if you have questions, thoughts, observations, takes, agendas, grievances, go ahead and drop them in chat. We'll get to as many as we can. Nico, before we get into the Seattle matchup, why don't we just give our initial thoughts on how the playoffs have started? Because I think it's mostly gone as expected, but you know, there was a couple things that maybe didn't go how you would have expected. Starting with Miami, Nashville. I mean, that went pretty much how I expected. But I mean, so they beat Nashville 3-1 in game one. I don't even know if Nashville it didn't look any different than Nashville usually looks against Inter Miami. Did you see anything to suggest that Nashville has a chance in this series, or did this change anything on how you think of Inter Miami? I feel like that went pretty much how I thought it would go.
Well, for me, just the Nashville team that really, piqued my interest, and that in the first 45 minutes of decision day game against Miami, put Miami in a real bind and was up 2 goals against Miami. Just never showed up. Ari, in this one, it felt like they never came out of the locker rooms. I mean, it was all Miami for the most part. There were moments there for Nashville, But look, maybe no, it might be a bad joke because it might be too soon. But with all this NBA, gambling and issues with shaving points, man, Schaffelberg on the one-on-one that he just completely misses was just
That was tough.
What's going on there? And then Palacios, how do you let Messi? You're tracking them into the 18, and for some reason you stop to look at the ball carrier, or you want to try to intercept the cross, and you leave the best player in probably the last decade, and probably one of the best in world game history, and you leave him unmarked for him to get a flying header into the net. I mean, it was just very suspect. But I mean, I know that's not the case, but that's how bad that was. The thoughts, the decisions, the ideas, the lack of just intensity for Nashville was awful. I mean, it looked completely different to what we've seen out of this BJ Callahan team, and I just think they were self-inflicted wounds, Ari. I mean, I don't want to take credit away from Inter Miami. They were very good. They were extremely aggressive. Messi looks like a man on a mission to prove a point. He definitely wants a title, of course, and he looked great. But Nashville just made it too easy for Miami to be able to handle their business. And then offensively, aside from that, Schaffelberg miss that, I don't know, he falls or something like that on a quick breakaway, there were very little moments where Nashville looked good in possession. They weren't able to find the pockets that Messi and this Inter Miami team would provide you with, because they did commit a lot of numbers forward, but Nashville was just never able to expose Miami. So to me, it didn't look like I expected it to look. I picked Nashville in this series. I'm not gonna, just because they had a bad, result, I'm not gonna just shy away from it. I still believe we'll see what happens in Miami. I don't trust them old knees, Ari. I don't trust them old knees. Let's see if in game 2 they look a little bit more tore down, and see if Nashville can wake up, because that was a bad first game.
Yeah, it's funny, at the start of the game, Nashville did have that chance that you mentioned, that breakaway for Schaffelberg, and he missed it. But I think they had one other like decent chance in that opening kind of 10 minutes. And I was thinking to myself, like, this Miami team, they look as vulnerable as ever. They just conceded 2 high leverage chances in the opening 10 minutes of the game. And, I still fully expected them to win the game, but I was thinking to myself, maybe there's an opening there. Not really. I think this Nashville team, they can't hang with Miami. Messi has now 11, 12 goals against them since he got to MLS, and they gave up a flying header, diving header to Messi, which for all the goals we've seen him score, you don't see him get, he's not an aerial threat typically, but that's kind of how this series is probably going to go for Nashville. But I thought the best game, the Timbies game was fun. We'll get to that. But Philadelphia, Chicago, Nico, the Chicago Fire, Noah's dark horse upset pick to make it to MLS Cup, the 8th seed wild card team. They go down 2-0 to the Supporter Shield winners, and they were looking chalked on the scoreboard, although I think even when it was 2-0, Chicago was they were playing Philly straight up, but they were down 2-0. And then they come back, Berhalter ball, baby. They come back, they tie it 2-2. Jack Elliott gets his revenge goal, Philly homegrown, now playing for the Chicago Fire, and he equalizes in the 89th or stoppage time minute. It was late in the game, and they get the leveler, they get it to PKs, and then Philly wins the shootout. But the Chicago Fire were scrapping. I think they have a good chance at winning the game 2 in Chicago. And I don't think they're out of that series, Nico. I don't. Like, I think that they're going to give Philly a run for their money. They already did give Philly a run for their money in game 1. And more than that, I could see Chicago, if they are able to get by Philly, they could make a run. But I also think this Philly team doesn't have the kind kind of invincible type air that you sometimes, or aura that you sometimes see with the Supporter Shield winner. Usually when you got the Shield winners, you're like, all right, this team's among the absolute favorites to win MLS Cup. Doesn't it kind of not feel like that with Philly in the East, especially now, like they're getting pushed to the limit by the Chicago Fire, who are a much improved team this year, but they're not considered. They're the 8th seed. I don't know. What do you think of how Philly Chicago started out?
Look, I think Chicago missed a big opportunity, to be quite honest. And look, he could go either way, right? I mean, he could, on one end, give Philadelphia confidence that they allowed Chicago to get back in this game, and they, in the last 20 minutes, allowed them to, equalize and really push them back, quite frankly, for the end of that game. And then they're able to rescue the win on PKs. Of course, Andrew Blake comes out big, and this Philadelphia team gets the W. But then on the Chicago end, it also gives them a little bit of confidence because, look, regardless of dropping this game at home and being able to, on the road, they're obviously on the road and dropping that game when, they had a chance to win it. But it gives them confidence that they were able to come back into this game. And like you said, there was a lot of moments where, I thought Chicago was great. And there were a couple of things that were interesting because Philip Sinkernagel, I'm terrible with this some of these European names.
That was close enough.
He obviously gets hurt or just wasn't feeling. He in the warmups he gets hurt and he is unable to play this game. He's a scratch before the game. He's a big player for Chicago. I thought that it was odd, but maybe I understand why he did it. Greg Berhalter decides to go back to a 3-man back line, pulls off Gutierrez, who was the best player on the field against Orlando, and he just didn't have the creativity in the midfield, and you could see that. But then at the same time, he was really doing a good job at limiting what Philadelphia likes to do. I thought that they did well to handle the pressure that Cornell tends to press on teams. So there were good things about Chicago's planning into this game, but maybe it was too conservative. And perhaps if you have Gutierrez and you just play your game, maybe you are able to put him a little bit under duress, and maybe they pulled this game. So to your point, I do think that this is anyone's series still. And I think that Chicago is very much alive. I think they're going to play a lot more aggressive and confident at home. We'll see what happens on the injury side. But look, Philadelphia as well. I have a hard time with Philadelphia because they did not perform up to their standards. They haven't performed up to their standards against really good teams this season, despite them having a phenomenal record-breaking season and obviously Shield supporter winners. But when I look at the team, man, there is always just good players on the field, right? I mean, Milan Islavsky, that second goal is phenomenal, right? Yeah. Just the way that he drives into the 18, the way he cuts inside, the way he puts the top in. I love what they do defensively. Bueno continues to be a phenomenal player. So they just have so many good pieces on that team that they're still my favorite to win this series. I think they're going to get far. We'll see what happens, but I agree with you that this is anybody's series still.
Bad Sequels, YouTube member for 8 months. Appreciate you, Bad Sequels. Thank you for the support. If you want to support the show, that's a great way to do it. Become a YouTube member and join the ranks. Yeah, before we talk about the Timbies, Noah mentioned it in chat, and I did want to talk about I got a format grievance, Nico. I got a format grievance.
Bring it on.
I actually think that the overall framework of this playoff format is fine. But with the exception of the round one being a best of 3 series, I just don't think that like a best of 3. The reason I think they do a best of 3 series is because it more kind of resembles the conventional playoff style that we're used to with other sports, like baseball and basketball. They do best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, or whatever. And so maybe that's the reason why they feel like it's the right thing to do for MLS. And I can sort of see the logic there in the sense that, watching the baseball playoffs this year, I was like, the cool thing about a series where it's two teams playing over and over again compared to a single elimination is that there can be so many momentum shifts and the storylines can change and the players who step up. There's just so many more games for stuff to happen. So there is that upshot to it. I just think when it comes to soccer, number one, like a third game is kind of just too much. I think 2 is about the maximum that you can play. And then once you get past that, it's just too much of the same teams playing each other. But I also like, what was wrong with the home and away two game series, home and away, aggregate scoring? I think that's the other problem I was thinking about that I have with this. Like the Chicago Fire, they had a great comeback and they draw that game in Philly. If this was home and away aggregate, that would have been a phenomenal result, and they would have gotten credit for the comeback, and Philly would have gotten penalized for allowing the comeback, would have put them in a tougher spot. And it's just much more exciting, and I think it rewards the teams for the results in a better way. And I think that's much better than a best of 3 series. So if they had the format, the round 1 was home and away aggregate scoring and then single elimination after that, I think that would be a great format. I think that's how they should do it. But I don't like this best of 3 business. What do you think?
I've never liked it. And I've never liked it simply because it seems just so unnatural to me as someone that was born into watching the game and so used to 2-legged series and home and away. I remember very vividly that one of the reasons why they changed it to this 3-game series, according to what they had told us, is that it would make it more entertaining to just break it down in 3 games. So if game 1 was a 3-0, like you saw against Vancouver, it wouldn't just be Vancouver parking the bus and saying it's over, we're not going to allow you to get back, and then he makes that game boring. That's what.
Don't lose the first game 3-0.
Yeah, well, no, exactly, and that was the rationale. And it just doesn't quite make a lot of sense necessarily, because you can just play boring soccer no matter what and try to hold off for dear life and win it in PKs all 3 games or all 2 games or whatever it is. So that's just what they had told us. But I am with you. I think that I don't know, the 2-game series seemed like it was honestly more fair, right? I mean, look at Vancouver. Let's say that they won 3-0 and they could still just lose this series if they have 2 bad games. So that 3-0 just goes up into, the horizon, and it just dissolves. It never happened. I don't think it's fair necessarily. But it is what we get. I think that there are enough people that have now just gave up on bringing up this sort of grievance towards the process. But I agree. I support it. I co-sign it. I do think that, for me, I wish it went back to the 2-game series.
Yeah, I miss those days. Those were fun times. Take me back. Nico, I don't think there's all that much to say about the Vancouver-Dallas game. Vancouver runs on them 3-0. Thomas Muller scores a PK, shockingly. But Vancouver, or FC Dallas, looked pretty overmatched. And it would be a shock if they make that anything of a series. It's looking like the Whitecaps are going to cruise there. But Nico, let's talk about the Portland Timbies. They their playoffs got off to a rough start, but they salvaged a little bit of dignity. But they do lose 2-1 at San Diego. Their backs are against the wall, and there was, I think, there's a couple interesting things about this game. I mean, number one, it started off extremely poorly. The Timbies went down 2-0 in the first half, but then they did pull a goal back and they were in it. And then they got a red card in like the 60-something minute, like not that far into the second half. And they played the rest of it down a man. And I thought at that point they were chalked. Like, you're down 2-1 on the road at San Diego. You're probably going to lose anyway, and now you're down a man. It's probably season over, or at least game over. But it wasn't. Like, to be fair, I thought they looked better down a man than they did when they had all 11 men out there. But they do lose 2-1. Phil Neville, after the game, he said it was the referee's fault. So there you have it. That's why they lost. But I don't know what did you make of how that series started? Because I think it's the result we all expected. But I like for going down a man, the Timbies fared better than I would have thought. But it does feel like Phil Neves is coaching for his job in game 2 once again. So how are you feeling about San Diego Portland?
San Diego Portland went about as I expected that to go, and I don't necessarily say that to compliment San Diego all that much. It's just that they continue to have the holes in their game that we have established in this game, including the reason why they are so desperately in need of Chucky Lozano. We in this show discussed the curious case of Chucky Lozano, and after the game, Mickey sounded like he's ready to have him back. And the reason of that is because San Diego created so many opportunities in front of goal that were missed, that were not taken advantage of. And those are the sort of situations that can cost you a game. Because look, this game is a 2-0 game, and in a great defensive play by the well that continues to feed the Timbers for years, and they still don't know where else to get that sort of midfield play. Diego Chara picks up a great ball defensively. He has the upside to pick up his head, puts it into Anthony. Anthony runs into the attacking third, ends up finding Velde, and Velde puts it away on a phenomenal finish.
That was a great play by Diego Chara. I'm like, how is this guy still doing it?
He
looks like it was 2011 out there.
He's like fine wine, man. He just gets better and better. But at some point, you're going to have to figure out a way out of Diego Chara, because
they say that every year, and then they just don't find a way out, and then it works.
I've been saying that for 5 years. I kid you not. For 5 years, I've been saying they're going to have to figure out how to, how to replace him, and they just don't, because he's just that good. But so it's a 2-1 game, and then all of a sudden, San Diego feels like they could lose this game, like you mentioned. So if you don't have that firepower, which they lost, by the way, with letting go of Velosky, who's over there just balling out for Philly, you need a guy like Chucky Lozano. So after the game, Mickey made it sound like they've seen what they've needed to see, kind of is what he said. I'm paraphrasing here from Chucky Lozano. So he's probably going to be back, and this team is going to look better. But the holes on this San Diego FC team continue to be just finishing, man. And they just don't have it. You can't ask Corey Barrett to do it. Pellegrino's not, a phenomenal finisher. That's just not his game. There is just so many things about San Diego that are great. They create so many opportunities. They have a great volume. Their pressing is phenomenal. I thought that they were the better team easily over the 90 minutes. But in the playoffs, that's just not enough. If you cannot put the ball in the back of the net, you're not going to win games. You're going to allow teams to just linger and stay within, and all of a sudden is a draw, and you're going into PKs, and PKs is anybody's game. So I think San Diego is still good enough to get over the Timbers. The Timbers are just too inconsistent, and they just don't have enough defensive fortitude to hold up this San Diego team. But game 2 at Portland, I give the Timbers a little bit more of a percentage to maybe get a result, maybe push that game to the PKs. But we're just kicking the can on the road. At the end of the day, San Diego's going to win this series. They're going to be able to get over in the next round. And it's all about, what happens on the other side with Minnesota and Seattle that, is really to be determined. But I think that this San Diego team, once Chucky comes back, they're going to look a lot better. Dreyer needs that other partner up top, and that has to happen here pretty quickly.
Were you surprised that they actually suspended Chucky for this game? Because I kind of was. I thought they were posturing. I didn't think that they would actually do it. And then, the lineup comes out. He's not in there. And, I didn't see Mikey Veras' press conference, but, it sounds like they're ready to bring him back. What do you think he did to warrant this? And were you surprised that they actually followed through with suspending him for a playoff game? I mean, that's that takes some gumption from a head coach to do that to your superstar player, no matter what he did. So I don't know. I didn't think they would actually do it.
No, I wasn't surprised. I thought that they were going to do it. The real question was how much longer were they going to uphold this internal disciplinary action for
Send a message.
Chucky.
Keep him out for the next round too. You got to send a message. Can't have this insubordination.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that's it, right? And this was, Miki Tavares in the post game, just on the field interview. I didn't watch the conference, but obviously Andrew Wiebe ended up asking him several questions, and one of those questions was about Chucky. And yeah, he absolutely said that they've seen enough, and that he's gonna be available for the next game. That words more, words less. I think that's basically what he said. So yeah, I just think that I wasn't surprised. As I mentioned on Under the Lights that we did together with Jeremiah and Noah and yourself, there are coaches that are not going to allow certain behavior, and Tavares is definitely a guy that you can tell that that's the way he runs his ship. I mentioned the Wilfred Nancy case with Cucho. It was Cucho. I mean, that is your best player, your attacker, your $20 million man, whatever you want to call it, and he sat him, right? Yeah. So there are just coaches that are not going to allow that sort of behavior, and he had already been doing it. This team needed momentum. They needed wins at the end of the season, and he didn't care. They didn't play Chucky, so it was about when that was going to end. And I think, in my opinion, obviously no insight here, but I think Mickey looked at that game, said, we're not going to survive much longer in the playoffs if we don't have all of our best attackers. Vlackery, for as much as he did well and he got into the right positions and he gets a good goal of ricochet off the post and he's the right place, right time, he missed 2 or 3 opportunities. I think Barrett was ineffective and honestly very bleak when he did get on the ball. So they just need that extra player. And Mickey looks like a guy that looked at the game and said, we're not going to be able to continue if we don't get Chucky back in this game. And now he will.
Yeah, I respect it from Mikey Veras on one hand, because San Diego FC, they're in their first year in the league. What he's trying to do is he's trying to establish standards and a culture. And I think what he's doing is sending a message, like, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how much you're paid, doesn't matter what your status is. If you don't adhere to our standards and culture, that I will take the action that I deem necessary. So I think ultimately, if it's a play for kind of establishing that stuff for the future, it could end up working out for him. But it is, I do look at it and I'm like, really? Okay, you actually kept him out for a playoff game. That's I mean, we've seen Brian Schmetzer. He was kind of in similar situations to this. I think the Raul Ruidiaz situation last year was somewhat similar, and you had Raul and Nuhu both getting suspended. Remember that whole thing? So it's not like an unheard of thing, but for it to happen in the playoffs with a player of this stature, it's definitely a storyline in the West. It looks like Noah's been a YouTube member for 10 months. Thanks for supporting the show, Noah. That's big time. Says Portland coming back in leg 2 is going to be hilarious. Yeah. Do you like, if you're Seattle or Minnesota, are you kind of rooting for that series to go as long as possible to ideally kind of hope that they get tired or have to expend more energy and resources, even if that would mean rooting for the Timbies in game 2? How do you kind of see that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you always want more games. You're rooting for a potential red card to both teams, right? So if you get a moment that players being sent off, it helps, right, for your purposes in the next round. In this one, when you saw a red card to Forey that just kind of goes back to back with bad, silly fouls and gets 2 yellows, gets sent off. So sure, you want that to go as long as possible. You want more of this bad moments for a team to get, you know, a player sent off or not. Yeah, look, I know that people are always of the thought process that you just got to beat the best at their best, but like I think that it's okay to get advantages, and I don't mind getting a team that's tired and that has played a long series, difficult series with an injury or two. Hey, look, it's all about winning. It's all about getting that result, and you know, sometimes is what it takes. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that the Sounders want this to go pretty long. I don't foresee it again. I think that the Timbers' chances increase in Providence Park, but I just still think that San Diego has too many weapons, and they play through the Timbers way too easy for them to get the game. I mean, they would have to play just as perfect as they did against RSL, where everything just seemed to go their ways, and that's just not soccer, and that just doesn't happen quite often. So I think that was their money game. That was the one where balls are ricocheting and Felipe Mora is getting in front of him, and he's, you know, getting a brace, and your team's playing great, and the ball's not going to the back of the net for the opponent like he did against RSL. But you know, when it's all about just even ground and just the game going the way it's supposed to, I just think San Diego's substantially better than the Timbers.
I think my, I guess, biggest takeaway from these first games in the playoffs is that it seems like the number 1 seed in both conferences is more vulnerable than you would think for a number 1 seed. Philly, like we talked about, they're getting pushed to the brink by the Chicago Fire, and then San Diego, they're dealing with all this Chucky drama and haven't been in that great of form, honestly, for the last couple months anyway. Most of their big point total this year was from their insane start, and they stayed good all year. But if you look at their record over the last 2 months, it's nothing close to what it was to start the season. So they were kind of, even with Chucky, on a downward trajectory, just form wise anyway. Now they're dealing with all this. They almost give up the lead against Portland, even though they were up a man. So I mean, I could see both those teams still making a run, but I just don't think that, like, some years the number 1 seed just looks unstoppable, and neither conference looks like that. I think if you're looking at who did the best and is probably going to be among the favorites in both conferences so far, obviously it's Miami, and then Vancouver, like, it's not like they're playing world beaters in FC Dallas, but they took care of business, and they looked like a Western Conference contender. So that's kind of how I see things shaping out right now as we look at this Seattle game, which I think that's a good segue, Nico, to give our kind of final thoughts and takes on the Seattle Sounders in this upcoming series with Minnesota United. How are you feeling about this? Did how any of either of the other games in the West go change how you feel about Seattle's path, or and then, like, how are you also feeling just about their chances against the Loons in this series?
No, I think the way the results happened, and, you know, beyond the results, just the performances by each team, I think it solidified and made me pretty confident on the way I presented my bracket. I think we did that with Jeremiah on what we learned this week. I think I might have shared it with you guys as well too, and under the lights. So, you know, I got Vancouver winning the whole thing. I think that Vancouver, look, Dallas might not be a world beater and you know, a contender, but they're a team that was kind of figuring things out. They really were. They were putting it together. I thought that they were a team that was trending in the right direction. They had all of their guys for this one. You know, Farrington, Musa, Julio. I mean, you know, Ramiro. They had all their guys, and Vancouver wasn't just good. They were dominant. I mean, Dallas came out of the game with 0.0 xG. I don't remember if I don't know if I've seen it. I don't know if you know, a goose egg, man, just complete goose egg on xG. I mean, they were.
I'm gonna watch that game back. How does that happen?
They got pummeled. And beyond that, I continue to be impressed by the leadership and the commitment from Thomas Mueller with this team.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just so vested in. There's times in the game when he's coaching on and off the ball. The team's winning 2-0.
Literally,
They're pushing.
he's a player coach. He's a player
coach, man. You know, they're pushing. They're just going off on the left side. I forget who has the ball. He's getting forward. You could tell that he needs to just bring it back, pace it, drop the ball, just keep possession. He goes in, he forces the ball, loses it to Dallas, and you could just hear Thomas Mueller just yell at him, right? Just calm down, just calm down. And then the next time he gets the ball, when he's on the ball, he's like, all right, let's hold the ball, let's keep it, let's make them work for it. I mean, man, just Thomas Mueller just gives this team a whole other edge. And as much as I know that they're going to get guys back, and I think that's one of the reasons why I have so much confidence in Vancouver, because I think that as the tournament progresses, they're going to get a lot of their big-time players back from injury. I thought that Daniel Rios did a great job in this one.
Yeah.
I thought that the Peruvian guy, what is his name? Kenji Cabrera has been a really good guy off the bench. And, you know, he gets a goal in this one. I just think that there's such a balanced team, man, that when it comes to the results, despite it being against Dallas, I was so impressed by Vancouver. And now when it comes to the Sounders, I think that I'm just as confident as I was a week ago. Nothing has changed, and it goes for either side. I'm not more confident because Brian Smetzer said that Ryan Kent's going to be probably available for this game, or he was going to have some sort of role in this game. It's kind of what I heard from him there on the press conference. I wasn't there on Sunday, of course, but I did listen back to his interview. So even with that, I'm not any more confident or any less confident. I'm just as confident that the Sounders are just the better team, that they're in better form, that they finish the tournament in a better place, not in the standings. I'm just talking about in form wise than Minnesota, and that they'll be able to win tonight on the road and then hopefully close it back at home. It's not a guarantee. I'm not sitting here telling you that it's a no-brainer that this happens. I just feel confident in the team. Obviously, we know what Minnesota's about. They're going to make it difficult. They're going to absorb a lot of pressure. They're going to find a way to make set pieces a pathway for them to get ahead on the scoreboard, and then they'll just park the bus. So, of course, you always have to be mindful of not underestimating your opponent, but I do feel like the Sounders have a pretty good chance tonight. I feel just as confident.
Do you think Minnesota is going to change how they play at all in the playoffs? No, because I zero. I just feel like I think they're gonna, you know, they know who they are, they know their identity, and they're very good at executing on it. I do think that it feels like they'd be playing a risky game to try and make it all the way through the playoffs into MLS Cup, playing against the ball that much. I'm curious to see how they come out in this game. That's going to be one of the biggest things I'm keeping an eye on, because I mean, we all remember how it looked when Seattle played there this year. That was one of the weirdest games of the season, I thought. But like from a Seattle perspective, but then you look at it and that's kind of just how they play all the time. But you think they're that committed that they're going to come out and do the exact same thing that they did in the regular season matchup? Because that felt so exaggerated to me, even with how, like, taking into account like the playing against the ball, counterattacking, set piece tactics. They just did it to such an extreme that I feel like leaning into that this much in the playoffs, I don't know if that's going to work, but they also are very committed to it. They know how to do it, and they are very good at it. So you're probably right. I just think, I don't know.
No, I think that Eric Ramsey has done too much to get this team to understand his concepts and to be successful with them. And I think that the main reason why it hasn't been working as great is because there have been some personnel changes and some injuries. But Jabo was back last game and he played 20-ish minutes and he's had a whole week to prepare for this game. So my guess is that Jabo starts that game. That gives them a much better fit to the counter team that they are, and having a guy that can play more direct and that could, in many ways, get behind a backline of the Sounders that do gets a little bit high. And I think that's the real question, is how different the Sounders might play. Because if there's a team that has put it on record that they might change the way they play, or there might be moments of their game where they play with a two-man setup up top, is the Sounders. I think that Minnesota, it's very clear on the way they want to play, and if there's anybody that's going to change it up a little bit, is the Sounders. So when the Sounders do get their lines a little bit high, because they do commit a lot of players forward, and they're going to have to, if you're going to break down a team that absorbs and plays so compact the way that Minnesota does, you're going to have to commit players forward. And those are the moments where Jaboa is going to be able to be a much better fit than Laud has been as the makeshift guy up there, right? They've played with Pereira up there. I mean, they've done so many different things, but with Jaboa, I think that they go back to normal. I also think that Rosales will go back to be playing that left wingback position. I think he just plays it better. He's been playing a little bit higher. Markinic's been the guy that has been playing there, but I just think that he's too vulnerable defensively. So I think that Eric Ramsey is going to have a lot of pieces back, and he's going to go back to what worked mid-year than what you've seen over the last month or two.
Don't you think this is a game where Jordan Morris being back looms kind of large? Because
yes,
I feel like his skill set in particular is kind of the perfect foil for a team that's going to play you like this. They didn't have that the last time these two teams played, and I still feel like they, as much as any loss that they had this year, that's one where I felt like they were the better team in the game and had the better chances, and they just couldn't finish and got burned on a set piece. But they didn't have that much trouble generating chances against this team at Allianz. And in Jordan Morris, you have a guy who can get in behind and make those runs and kind of put them under more pressure, and then especially like in transition. I think that's the biggest key to me in this game, Nico, is a team like this that's going to put numbers behind the ball like that and let you have the ball. The number one best way to unbalance them is to run at them, get at them in transition and try and get out on the break so they can't kind of set up how they usually set up. And one of the things they're really good at is preventing that. That's sort of why it's so frustrating to play them, because they're really good at getting themselves in situations where when you have the ball, they are set and they just let you knock it around. Definitely they do not press. That is one thing that they don't do. So I think Jordan is a guy who, I mean, it's going to be key in this series. If they're going to get goals against these guys, I really think that getting out and running and hitting Jordan over the top on those balls and behind and those through balls. I'm looking at Rusnak pinging those through balls. All that stuff is going to be, I mean, that's when Jordan's playing, that's how Seattle runs their offense anyway. But like in this specific matchup, I think it's even more important.
I totally agree. And before I give you my take, let's get the chat involved. If the Sounders are going to get a result tonight, if they're going to win, let's say that if the Sounders are going to win, who's your guy that you think needs to have a baller of a game? Let us know in the chat. Is it Ferreira? Is it Jordan? Is it Albert? Is it Steph? Who is the guy that you believe that needs to have a baller of a game for the Sounders to get a win in Minnesota? To me, it was Jordan, actually. I do totally agree with you that Jordan Morris is the guy that needs to have a big game. And you hope that it's on the stat sheet, but it doesn't have to be. I think that he has to be great in his spacing. I think that he has to be good on the link up play. I think that he's a guy that's going to need to crash the box pretty consistently to either get two balls or open up lanes for Rothrock to get in, or for Ferreira to get in, or for Albert to have room to shoot mid range. He's going to have to keep Boxall occupied. There's going to have to be a lot of responsibility on Jordan Morris today. And this is a big game. He's been waiting for a big game. I think that he got the goal that he needed to get that monkey off his back, the way a lot of strikers need to. You hope that the water gates will just open now that he kind of broke through and got that goal. But yeah, to me, in every aspect of the game, Jordan's going to have to be a boss tonight. And, I don't need to say that he's got to play like a DP or earn his paycheck. Like, I've heard some comments on, that regard. I just think that he has to be a influential player at the striker position for Seattle to have a good chance to break down a very good defensive line. Boxall, Jefferson, Diaz. I mean, this is a good defensive team that you're going to have to move around, and you're going to have to get them to pull out a little bit. Obed Vargas talked about, committing numbers forward, but also showing that you're dangerous with mid-range shots so they can have the obligation to push out that line, those center backs. And when those players push out, that intricate passing where if you can get Jordan Morris on a 1-2 with Ferreira, which they've done pretty well, in Austin, they've done well quite often where Jordan has gotten into good positions, just haven't been able to finish. That's what you want to see today. You need that intricate passing to work in order to get through that barrier, that wall that Eric Ramsey is going to put in his own third.
Got a couple people saying Rusnak. We got a Jackson Reagan shout. We got a Christian Roldan shout. We got a Morrison Jesus Ferreira shout. To me, it's the Morris Rusnak duo. When that duo was cooking last season, it was one of the most. If there was a stretch of last season where it was the most productive 1-2 punch in the league, and they have not really gotten a chance to replicate that this year because both have missed time with injury. Jordan has missed most of the season with injury. So I think having both of them healthy going into the playoffs, I get the hope is that would give you a boost anyway. But then particularly in this series, you're going to have to lean on those guys and hope that they step up and can get you a couple goals and a result in this game. And then if you take this back home up 1-0, you should like your chances. This is a big game tonight. Like if you win this game, your chances of going through are pretty good. And then you're on the more forgiving side of the bracket. You are. Like I was thinking about this, Nico. If you're just able to get through this Minnesota series, you have either a San Diego team that, like we talked about, is more diminished than your typical number one seed, not in great form anyway, and dealing with a bunch of locker room drama with their star player, or a Timby's team that is not good. So like if you have a pretty good path theoretically to a Western Conference final where you would be taking on either LAFC or Vancouver, and then at that point you're the underdog. It would be a tough game, but you're going to have to get through them at some point anyway. You're just there's a big opportunity here, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like the way that the bracket shaped up and the other teams that they would have to play, it's set up for them as well as it could have, I guess. I would certainly rather them be in this situation than on the other side of the bracket where the next round would be like the Whitecaps or LAFC. So
yeah, no, and there's some validity to that. I have, after some long division, I have the Sounders beating San Diego there and, then losing to Vancouver in the Western Conference final, which I think, most fans would be very happy with, right? Getting to that Western Conference final would be great. But at the same time, look, I don't want to see the Timbers. As much as they're a bad team, as much as they're so inconsistent, you don't want a Derby in that sort of playoff match, because that's when things can go south and can be very.
They'll become gods. They'll become gods.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want that additional motivation for a team that has some pieces there. They have some weapons. So yeah, I definitely would rather see San Diego and let it be a very emotionless game. I guess not emotionless, but not as impacted by that rivalry. And yeah, as much as I don't think that Seattle matches up great against San Diego, I do think that they have the weapons to now, specifically with a more cohesive team, a more cemented squad, a team that has certainly showed us that rapport between Ferreira and Albert and Jordan and Paul, it's just gotten so much better as the season has gone on that I would not mind taking my chances against San Diego, but I want no part of the Portland series. But yeah, look, I'm totally with you. I think that the Sounders in this one tonight, I think Albert's a great shout. Albert is going to have to be influential on set pieces, which he has been. Nice little assist for Jordan against New York City FC. He's a guy that has a very good mid-range shot, which is not like super powerful, but he loves doing that. He's going to cut inside, and rather than going far post corner, he tricks the goalkeeper by going goalkeeper post, and man, that works like a charm every single time. And he works on that. I mean, he literally on the small-sided games, he does it so good, so consistently. So he is a guy that I think with his through balls, with his dynamism, because I said this about Albert Rusnak on Friday. He has shown in so many ways that I don't know if he took it personally, that a lot of people believe that he was just in it for the paycheck, or that he was, Brian would throw shade at him a little bit about working hard, and he would like, oh, yeah, Albert working hard or defensively or all this stuff. And this year he has been just so much more active, so aggressive, both on and off the ball. The range.
He's out there getting red cards.
He's out there getting red cards, exactly, that, because of a tackle that he maybe wasn't trying a couple of years ago. So I do think that there is this inner almost chip on his shoulder to show everybody that he is that guy. And I think that that's been beneficial for the Sounders. And that's why I like the shout tonight against Minnesota for Albert to have a big game. And that needing to be a player that's key. Ferreira's a guy that's very consistent. He's been very even kill in a good way, right? He's been such a high floor guy that I think he'll do his thing. But with Albert, sometimes you needed him to have a big game, can have a lot more influence than you may think. So yeah, Jordan, Albert, good shouts. Love the Christian Roldan shout. Love the Jackson Reagan shout as well. You're going to have to be good on set pieces, right? Yeimar Gomez Andrade is back to 100%. He's been working all week, no problems. Him, that duo, right? That those two guys, Jackson Reagan and Yeimar, are going to have to be important. Just making sure that you brace your boa, that you are good coming out of the back, that there are no issues giving up the ball in vulnerable positions. I mean, everything. I thought Jackson Reagan had a baller of a game on decision day against New York. He was a big reason why you didn't allow Alonso Martinez to hurt you. So I absolutely love the Jackson Reagan shout out too.
That's news on Yeimar that some people might not know about. I kind of figured that, but I didn't know it was official. He is 100% by was that proclamation of Brian Schmetzer. And do you think should he be able to go 90, or do you think it's a situation where he goes more like 60 while they get?
No, he goes 90. For all accounts, Brian made it sound like he was 100%, no issues, no problem, no limitations. So as far as I know, he could have even played against New York. He could have had some minutes against New York, could have been available against New York, but in a very good decision. They kept him out, just as they did with the pivots, and now he's 100%. He's ready to go. You're not going to be able to get him out of that pitch. I'll tell you right now. He loves playing Minnesota, loves playing Yeboah. He's a guy that has heard him a couple of times, but they've kept at bay. He liked the Tanny matchup as well. He really found himself to just rise to the occasion against Stanley, obviously no longer there. So yeah, no, I think that Yamar is not just 100%, but he's motivated going into this. He knows and understands that he is one of the leaders in that back line. Alex Roldan as well. He should be available to start this game. He obviously was on and off practice. If you missed that, he has a little bit of a hip pain, soreness issue, something that he's been dealing with for a while. That's the reason why he came off early against New York City, but he looks like he's available and ready to start. So yeah, for all accounts, aside from Kim Ki-hee, and obviously, no, I think that's it. I think Kim Ki-hee and, obviously Paul and all the guys that are out, but it sounds like everybody else should be available, including Ryan Kent, which was the big news.
Good news all around, particularly on Yamar. I feel like we take Yamar for granted sometimes. The universal just the consistency, and they've had good cover at that position this year, but I think the defense is at its best when it's he and Jackson in there. Magno, thank you for the 5. He asks, assuming we go with our first choice 11, who do you guys think the subs will be? I'm glad you asked, because that gives us a brilliant segue into what we're going to do to close out the show here, which is bust out the lineup builder. I'm going to pull it up right now, and we're going to do a little projected starting 11 for Seattle's game 1 at Minnesota. I feel like it should be relatively straightforward, but let's do it anyway. All right.
Yeah, the lineup builder, which still without any sort of backing or what's the word I'm looking for here there, Ari? No sponsor. There's no sponsor for it.
The Lobbing Scorchers projected lineup sponsored by nobody.
But it should be.
Sponsor it. Yeah. All right. So here we go. This is the default one that Fought Mob has. So we'll just make our alterations to this. I think back 4, we are looking at Nuhu, Reagan, and via breaking news from Nico, we got Ymar back in there, and then Alex Roldan, you said, should be available. So we are looking at the Steph Fry, Nuhu, Jackson Reagan, Ymar, Alex Roldan defense. It's going to be the Christian Obed double pivot. I'm excited to see that back in action. Swap Obed in right there. And then I think left wing's kind of the only real question, right? It's going to be Paul Rothrock, though, right?
Yes, it will be.
Okay.
100% Paul Rothrock. Look, I mean, people can have opinions about whether they would want a guy like Georgie Manungu there. You could. That's probably the only other option necessarily that you would think it'd be feasible. But no, I think Paul Rothrock's been too good, too consistent. He gives you a lot of a two-way play that you're going to need against Minnesota. So yeah, no, I think Paul Rothrock is a guy that also, this is something that I mentioned on Friday. He's a guy with a lot to prove a little bit, right? He's on the negotiating table. He is asking for a big amount, big salary. So I think he is a guy that would love to. He's always going to want to perform. I don't want to make it sound like that's the only reason. So let me rephrase that. I think that there's just an added, bonus for Paul Rothrock to be additionally motivated than what he usually is, to just say, look, man, I just killed this game. I got a goal and an assist, and pay me my money. So I think that Paul Rothrock is a guy that's going to be very good in this game.
If you had to put a guess on it right now, do you think that they pay him and he gets re-signed, or do you think that he'll be elsewhere next year? It feels
I had
pretty
to
50-50, doesn't it?
if I had to bet right now, man, I think he tests as the free agency.
Yeah,
I really do.
that's kind of.
I would love to see him back. I would love to. And look, if you ask me, would I rather have Paul Rothrock or Ryan Kent? I'd rather have Paul Rothrock, to be honest. I really do. Maybe I'll get killed for this. The problem with that theory, though, is that I also understand that there is a template that you can't skip, that you cannot give a player a certain amount of money just on his first contract after he was just getting paid close to minimum salary. And that I understand from the club. And maybe that might be something that people have an issue understanding, because if I have a player that's performing, that's giving me what I need, that's such a key player, why not pay him what he wants? It's just a lot more complicated than that. It just creates a trend that it shouldn't quite be there. I would love for things to happen and that he comes back with the team, but I really do believe that if he doesn't settle and bring that number down and maybe bets on himself with the Sounders rather than bet on himself just with anyone, I think that he would eventually get that big payday he's looking for. But yeah, for right now, I think that he tests the free agency, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and if he does that, there's going to be a market for him, and it's pretty likely, I think it seems like, that there would be a team that will pay him closer to what he wants from Seattle. And it sounds like Seattle might be a little hesitant to give him. I mean, if you just think about it, like if you're working for a company that's paying you $100K a year, right? That's what Paul made this year. Company paying you $100K a year, and then another company is like, we'll pay you close to $1 million per year, and then
we're going to give you 9 times your salary. I mean,
that you currently work for is like, well, we're not going to give you that, but we'll give you like 400 or 500K.
Exactly.
What are you going to do? You're going to go to the other company. That's just like, he would be, especially when we're talking about MLS salaries here. We're not talking about situations where these contracts are, in this case at least, is like millions and millions of dollars. Like, he's in a situation where he's got to think about like his life and his future, and that much of a raise, it meaningfully affects that kind of stuff. So I mean, I don't think anyone's been saying they would hold any ill will, but I mean, if he does test the market and gets a better offer and takes it, I don't think anybody should or would fault him for that.
No, that's a great point, Ari, because yes, I think I understand it. And you got to put yourself in his shoes, right? I'm a guy that always talks about empathy and understanding where people are coming from. And he came into the scene so late. He's looking for that payday, man. And you can't fault him if that's the case. But I also can't fault the club for protecting themselves, as you just mentioned, because, they have a certain number that they're willing to give him. And look, to the debate of Ryan Kent or Paul Rothrock, I don't even want Ryan Kent at 900 or $1 million, definitely, right? If I do keep Ryan Kent, I want him at 7. I really haven't seen enough out of Ryan Kent to keep him at a 900,000 plus salary. So it's a difficult situation. It's a difficult situation because I just like so many of the things that Paul Rothrock does, but that number is just going to be what breaks the camel's hump.
Do you think if Rothrock does leave in free agency, that increases the likelihood that Ryan Kent would come back?
Yeah, I think it does. I really do, especially because Ryan Kent, this is just a educated guess. I don't think he's necessarily in any position of leverage to, want to go somewhere else. He came to MLS, played X amount of games, which, by the way, I think Jeremiah said it was 20 games, which was surprising to me. It didn't feel like he played 20 games, and then got hurt. So if I'm a club looking around, I don't know how much more I would give Ryan Kent. So I think his best option is to stay with the Sounders, take a little bit of a pay cut, continue to work himself and display his talents on a more consistent basis, starting from day one of camp and getting himself together rather than testing the open market and try to figure out where he may or may not fit.
I would be happy to have him back for one, for the right number. But I know people have been down on his stock a little bit because the performances dipped, and then he got injured. But I feel like we saw just such good stuff when it was looking good that if he wants to come back at the right number, I personally would love that. All right, well, there you have it, folks. That is the Lobbing Scorchers projected starting 11, sponsored by no one. Like I said, pretty straightforward, but this in all likelihood is how they're going to be lining it up at Allianz Field. Nico, I did want to I pulled up Minnesota's starting 11 from one of their last games.
Yeah, but hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Before that, the question was about the substitutions.
Oh, my bad.
So we need to answer that for him.
My bad.
Yeah, so the subs are going to be, I think pretty self-explanatory, especially if, you got certain guys in. So obviously JP and Danny Leyva are going to have to be part of that. Reed Baker-Whiten, John
Thomas.
Bell, Danny Masovsky, Osase, Andrew Thomas, Snyder Burnell.
What is that? How many guys does that bring us to?
Oh crap! Yeah, I kind of started cooking there without counting. Okay, so Danny Leyva 1, JP 2, John Bell 3, Danny Masowski 4, Reed Baker-Whiten 5.
Did you say Georgie and Andrew Thomas?
I have not. So Georgie and Andrew Thomas, that's 7. Osase de Rosario 8.
Oh, yep. I wrote them down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And Stu Hawkins?
It could be Stu Hawks. I got to pull up the roster, I guess. How many do we need? I don't know the math on this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is 9. I thought it was 8, but yeah, no, I count 10 from the last game. So yeah, let's just go that. Let's try to go with the exact same number of subs that they did last time. So let's go 10.
I got Danny Leyva, JP, Andrew Thomas, Georgie, John Bell, Moose, RBW, Osase, Snyder B.
Oh no, it is 9. It is 9. There you go. So you keep doubting myself. No, it is 9 players. Yeah. So how many do we have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There you go.
There you go.
There you have it.
That should be your 9.
We filled out the entire match day squad. That was a lot of math, but we got there.
Yeah, we stumbled and stuff, but we got it. So to the listener that provided that question, great question. We haven't done that, so that's why you saw the.
This is a good projected starting 11.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pull up the Minnesota lineup. This is just from one of their last games of the season. I figure we can look at this and see if it's going to look similar or if you think there are going to be any changes here. Obviously, they're going to have Dane St. Clair in goal, one of the best goalkeepers in the league. And then they have Boxall, one of the best CBs in the league. He's a defender of the year, front runner. Will Trapp is still doing his thing. He had a really good year for them this year. And then in this game, they had Robin Laud and Pereira up top with Bongi. It looks like they got him listed as a winger with him and Rosales. I don't know how accurate this 4-4-2 is to how they actually play. But Nico, is there anything that stands out to you about this or how they're going to line it up? Other than you were saying you're expecting it to be Yeboah instead of Pereira, correct?
Yes, 100%.
So,
but I mean, obviously Perez in as well. I think that the change there is that I don't know if you have it there. Do you have Rosales as a midfielder? I can't really see.
Yeah, he's in there.
Yeah, so I'd say Rosales goes to in that specific setup to left back, and then Pereira goes there, and Jaboa goes up top.
Okay. But other than that, this should be relatively how the Loons line it up. I mean, they're a strong squad, but I feel like they haven't been quite the same since they sold Tawny. Do you think that's accurate? Like, I feel like most of the good form they had this year was when he was in good form, and they kind of haven't replaced him, which makes sense. That's kind of the risk you run sometimes when you do these in-season transfers, even when they're pretty lucrative. In this case, they got a bag for him to sell him to La Liga, but I think you did see the short-term effects on their offense, and it feels like that's still been affecting them kind of down the stretch of the season, doesn't it?
It does. They were already limited on the attacking end. I think Tani was the better finisher. I thought that he was more explosive. Jaboa still gives you speed, but he's just not, to me, he was just not as clinical in front of goal. I think he gives you a lot of other options on set pieces and things of that nature. I think he has a good right foot, but I really do think that Tani just gave him a little bit of they could either go, when they go play with two, and at times they do go with two strikers, that was the perfect setup with those two. And if they didn't, they just had another guy that was going to be able to come off the bench or just kind of change up the game like a spark plug. Obviously, I don't think that setup is correctly. I think there's more of a 5-man back line. It's like a 5-4-1 or something across those lines where it's only going to be Jaboa up top, and both Lott and Pereira are going to come from a back line behind that. Both guys are going to be in, of course. But yeah, no, for me, the team has changed drastically because of a lot of those changes. I mentioned Rosales. He's been kind of a guy that they've used a little bit higher, a little bit back, but I think that he's best fit for this specific team playing that left wing back position. Juan is a guy that in those overloads is so important, and I think he lost a little bit of a spark, and they need him to do a lot of that from that side, because Pereira, he's going to play in the inside channels. He's going to be a guy that it's just going to be more inside, and you need that width to come out of Wingwani. So those are the things that I felt like have made this team not as elite because of what you mentioned, right? When you are so radical in the way you play against the run of play, absorbing all this pressure, the margins are very small, they're very thin. So when you're missing one tool, one player, one key component, that just completely changes the aspect of your game. That completely changes what you can do, the way you can perform, and that makes it difficult for the system. But now I think with Jaboa, you're going to see a lot more of what you saw mid-season. So yeah,
they have a hard time scoring from open play. Like they really do. We saw it when Seattle played them in Minnesota. But it does a couple things. It accentuates the importance of set pieces, which they are hyper elite at. And that's why when we're talking about, the most important players to have good games, I think the CBs are, if Rusnak and Jordan are the most important players that need to step up in attack, the CBs have got to be ready for these set pieces. This team's free kick delivery is second to none in MLS. They put it on a dime every single time. You got to be ready to get in the air, crush your headers. You got to win your one-on-ones. Like all that stuff is going to be really important. And if you can just do that, you take away one of the biggest ways that they score. If you can just, and it's obvious, it's way easier said than done. Like every team that plays them knows this, that they go into the game and they know that they have to be ready for their set pieces, and they get a goal a game off them. It seems like, at least, no matter what. Anyway, but another thing that you really have to do, and this is something that Seattle has struggled with at times this year, you got to limit the amount of free kicks that you give away. not even just the ones that are like close to the goal in that kind of messy range, where he always bams. When they get them from deep, like out wide, they send them in accurately and they score a lot in those situations. So I think set piece defending, honestly, might be the biggest key to this series. If you're on it with your set piece defending and you don't let them score that way, the odds that you win the series go way up, because they have a hard time scoring if they don't have that working. They just always have that working. But another effect of that, Nico, is that they don't really blow a lot of teams out. Like you said, the margins with their tactics and their play style are very thin. Extremism is the best way to, or radical. Yeah, they're radical extremists in terms of their soccer tactics, but they play a lot of close games, and they're really good at taking results and winning games in situations like that, in close games. They're probably one of the best 2 to 3 teams in the league at that, if not the best team in the league, purely at, the getting a set piece goal and holding on to the lead. That's what they do. And they've done it to great effect all year. As much as I hate on it, because I don't really like watching it, it does work and they are good at it. So that's kind of where my mind goes, is just like, man, just if they lose this game on a set piece goal, it's going to be tilting, because it's coming. It's coming. They're going to come up with some weird wrinkle to it that you haven't seen before. I'm pretty sure they have an entire analytics staff that all they do is just come up with these set plays. So you just got to be on it with that stuff. And if you're not, you'll lose the series. They will score on you like that. They will.
Yeah, and I would even go, any dead ball, like long throws is something that they do particularly well. And Brian actually went the extra mile to talk about, I don't just want to control where and, where we shouldn't give up free kicks, but also I want to try to keep the ball inside the lines for most of the game. I want to be able to just condense the field a little bit and hold possession and not allow, the ball to go off, right? So Brian Smetzer is more than aware that that's where this Minnesota team is going to influence the game the most. And so between corner kicks, not giving up corner kicks in some way, not allowing dumb fouls on top of the 18, and,
you can't
being
do that.
mindful.
You can't do that in this series. You can't.
You can't. You cannot just take somebody out in an unnecessary free kick. I mean, there's always going to be moments where just those things happen. But if it's a 50-50 ball and it's, in a position where you have some backing behind you, maybe just be more careful and not allow that free kick to happen, because that's where you're going to allow this Minnesota team to hurt you.
Yeah, and I feel like in that last game at Allianz, Seattle, they had the right idea on how to combat this radical extremism. What they're going to do is they're going to set up in their block, and then they're going to give Seattle the ball, and they're going to say, you have it, you knock it around. And I thought what Seattle was doing in that last game was like, okay, we will knock it around. We will slow this down as much as you want. We're not going to get into your little game where we get flustered by all the possession that that you're giving us, and we start kind of trying to pull rabbits out of hats and get frustrated. We'll knock it around as long as you guys want us to have it. We'll keep it. That's fine. And we're not going to give you. That's the other thing. Like, you have to. They prey on set pieces, but they also prey on counterattacks. Okay, so that what they're doing when they're yielding all that possession is they're trying to lull you into that complacency. That's what they prey on. And I thought Seattle did a great job, honestly. Great job in the last game of not falling into that complacency. You could tell that they were training like very hard on that. Like they were doing counter extremism to the extremism. And it was kind of an interesting chess match in that way, even if it was kind of infuriating to watch, especially because I'm like, guys, you guys are at home. You're at home and you're still playing like this. And you want to look at like why their home record's not that good this year. that's probably part of why. It's a great style for road games, honestly. Like if they played like that on the road and then played like a normal soccer team at home, I'd be like, that's honestly kind of genius MLS tactics, just to lean into that in your road games. But they do it at home, and they're going to do it in this game. And that's one of the reasons I've been saying that I like this matchup, because I feel like Seattle has learned how to play against this. And I've been calling it gimmicky all year. I could be wrong. They might win this series. They might win all MLS Cup for all I know. But the thing about a gimmick is that teams eventually are going to figure it out, and there's going to be blueprints to combat it. And I don't know if Seattle discovered the blueprint, but if you compare the last game that they played in Minnesota to the first one in Seattle, the first one in Seattle, Seattle was not like ready for those tactics at all. They fell right into the trap. They ended up giving up 3 goals, and they lost. That was the only game at home that they lost all year. And then they, to their credit though, they didn't let that happen in the second game. They did lose it 1-0, but I feel like there's a lot of kind of lessons that you can take from the last time that they played. And if you just play it like that again, you'll at least have a pretty good chance to win this game. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I just think that, that loss at home against Minnesota had so many other components, and Yamar wasn't in, and it was just a very different game. And so to me, this is going to be a game where, as I had mentioned, just Seattle is at a whole other level. They're a whole other step above that team that played against Minnesota. And I see Seattle so prepared for this game. Andy Rose is a guy that takes his set pieces very seriously. He was completely involved in it. I thought that the intensity from the entire week through a guy like Preki, who, he keeps his foot on the gas on these guys. And I thought that was great. To the point of Brian Spencer talking about, if it's necessary, breaking out the 3-5-2 for this team, or playing with a 4-4-2 setup and having a second striker up there.
Jordan dual strikers?
Yep, that could be something that we see, right? And if you need to break down this team and you need to add an additional striker there, I love the fact that they're prepared for it. So I just see a Sounders team that is ready for everything and anything. And that's dangerous. That is dangerous for this team. Now, it's about executing, and that is always difficult. So we'll see. But when it comes to preparedness, I feel like Seattle has it in the bag.
All right, folks, we are just about out of time for this episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, if you have not done so yet, hey, everyone in chat, I know you're watching. Like the video. Do it right now. I'll give you a second. Like the video. All right. I trust that everyone's liked it. Subscribe to the channel. Rate 5 stars. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram. LobbingScorchers.com/sauce for the Lobbing Scorchers hot sauce. And yeah, playoff time. Can't wait. Excited for this series to get underway. Excited to see if Seattle can put together a little run here. And if they are going to be able to put together a little run, it starts tonight. It's going to be good stuff, and we'll be back on tonight for our post game live. So we'll see you all there. Nico, thanks for tapping in, man. Anything playoff coverage wise you got going on, or anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, make sure you check out our episode from Thursday of Soccer Down Here. I always do the rerun on our Postal Sports YouTube channel, so go ahead and check that out. We had a lot of fun with John breaking down the Oscar Pereira situation, and we talked about Chucky, talked about the Sounders' chances. So go ahead and check that out, man. Enjoy that.
Hell yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate and love all of you. We will, we'll see you later tonight. Have a good one, and enjoy the playoffs. Peace.
Go Durs!
Some people come to Lumen Field for the tactics, for the soccer, the atmosphere. And some come for Paul Rothrock's hair. Me personally, I come for both, because I have agendas to push. Live soccer isn't just better, it's way more personal. From making friends to becoming the guy in your section that's just constantly yelling about advanced statistics. Get tickets to any Sounders match by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/tickets. You support the pod, our agendas, the vibes, and the chaos.